morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio. So today, we're going to be looking at the new way to play Reshiram and Charizard. Just a couple of days ago, we looked at the new way to play Malamar, and that went down pretty well. That video was rather well received. People were into it, so I thought, right, let's take another deck, which is really good right now, and look at how we're going to go about playing it post-rotation. Now, at this stage, I'm assuming that most of you are probably fairly familiar with Reshiram and Charizard. It's got an outrage attack that for 2 energy does 30 damage plus 10 more for each damage counter on it. That's fine. But really, it's 4 energy, 230 damage. And we use a mixture of Kiawe in the early game, attach 4 energy from your deck, your turn ends. And then Welder, attach 2 fire energy from your hand, draw 3 cards, to make sure you've got enough energy on Reshiram and Charizard so that you can keep smashing. Though I will say that I have remembered my promise. As we go through, we will be making sure to mention what's going to be missing after rotation, the changes that we need to make to play this post-rotation. Because you see, the biggest change that we're going to have very shortly after rotation is that we are going to have Charizard and Braixen Tag Team GX. And one of the biggest questions that Reshiram and Charizard as a deck is going to have is, do we play it? And the answer is a resounding yes. I have seen a whole bunch of deck lists over in Japan for Reshiram and Charizard. They're all playing it. They are all playing Charizard and Braixen. It is just a standard thing now. It's part of the deck. Get over it. Okay, cool. The first attack, 4 energy, does 180, searches for any free cards and puts them in your hand. The thing to remember is that post-rotation, we're losing Choice Band, which means that Reshiram and Charizard isn't going to be able to hit that 260 that it generally needs to KO a lot of these Tag Team GXs, like Pikachu and Zekrom. So what you do instead is you 2-hit KO using Charizard and Braixen. Now, in terms of other Pokemon, because let's be clear about this, they are your attackers, they are the Pokemon with whom you attack. Now, I'm going to be using a deck list from Japan as I go through and have a look here. A couple of these cards are gone, but don't worry about it, we'll explain as we go through. But really, what we're looking at here is how it is played with Charizard and Braixen in the format. And one of the things we see, and this is not particularly unusual, Jirachi. And I see no reason why this would change post-rotation. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck, put a trainer card from there into your hand, you go to sleep, and then we use Escape Board to give you free retreat. That to me seems fairly straightforward and standard. I see no reason whatsoever why that would change anytime soon. But the other card that we see a fair bit of love for here is Hoopa. And Hoopa at this stage is seeing play in a whole bunch of decks in Japan, and I think we need to start taking Hoopa rather seriously. You see, Hoopa here has an attack for a single colourless energy that does 10 damage base plus 20 damage for each Pokemon your opponent has in play that has an ability. Now, there's no way you're really going to be KOing stuff like the Dedenne GX using this. But absolutely you'll be getting KOs on stuff like opposing Jirachi. This is a really good non-GX attacker. Because you see, there's plenty of stuff around you can use like Turtonator, but the problem with using something like Turtonator is it's extremely energy heavy, and we're losing Kiawe to the rotation. Though I suppose this is as good a time as any to point out that Charizard and Braixen's GX attack is the same as Zero Aura's, 1 coloured energy, attach 5 energy from the discard to your Pokemon in any way you like, though you can add a second energy and get Burn and Confusion. So as I'm going through talking about ways to get the energy, replacements for Kiawe, etc., it's not perfect having to use your attack and your GX attack, but it is an option here. So you're probably not going to want that heavy energy use from your non-GX attackers. Hoopa works nicely. Now in this list we see a Dedenne GX and a Tapu Lele, there for your early game consistency. 2 Dedenne, you'll be fine. We see Absol. He increases the retreat cost of your opponent's basics by 1. Jirachi is going to be everywhere post-rotation. This is still a great card. And then we see a couple cards which we are losing, those being Marshadow. Yeah, it's a bit annoying. It's good for disruption. And Miltank. Now, Miltank is pretty good for the healing, and it is a shame we're going to be losing it. But playing stuff like Jirachi will help. And don't forget the post-rotation, we're going to have Great Potion that heals 50 from your active GX. And I know some people are getting pretty into their healing in Reshiram decks. So, that could work. Now, in terms of energy, we are seeing an awful lot of Reshiram and Charizard decks, and like I say, I'm showing you one list here, but I've seen this in a bunch of them. Weak Guard energy. It removes your weakness. It seems to be being played only as a one-off. The vast majority of lists I've seen here are seeing it played as a one-off, but it is still being played as a one-off. Takes away your weakness, and post-rotation we're going to have stuff like Blastoise and Piplup, and also stuff like Frostlass, which is a wonderful counter, albeit to stage 1. Nice to be able to take away your weakness. Now, in terms of trainer cards here, we're playing 4 Welder and 2 Kiawe. That's fairly standard. Now, you are losing your Kiawe to the rotation, but essentially here you just need to make better use of Welder, and certainly Charizard and Braixen and Jirachi are going to be able to make sure that you can get those cards when you need them. They're going to make sure that you're a little bit more consistent in getting your Welder. Kiawe is going to be a loss, but I don't think it's going to be a deck-killing loss. Now, we do see free copies of Guzma. Every deck is losing Guzma, which is a little bit of a pain. But every deck is going to adapt. There are other switching options out there, like, for instance, Switch, or Tate and Liza if you really want it as a supporter card. But every deck is losing it. Jirachi will survive. We see 1 copy of Professor Kukui. Does an extra 20 damage, will be rotating, but it's not the biggest loss ever. Now, in terms of Pokemon Search, we've got 3 Ultra Ball, 2 Nest Ball, and a couple of Cherish Ball. Nest Ball gets your basics, Ultra Ball gets anything, Cherish Ball gets your GXs. And Cherish Ball is really going to be the secret post-rotation, except it's not even remotely a secret. It's going to be huge in decks like this to get your GXs. As for your others, don't forget we're getting Professor Oak setting. We're losing Kiawe as a turn 1 option, which means that our turn 1 supporter slot is open. Professor Oak's setting could work, gets you 3 Pokemon that are basics of different types, and we've got plenty here. In terms of the rest of our item cards then, we've got a couple of Switch and an Escape Rope. Could well end up seeing more Switch here. Couple of Escape Board. We see 1 Choice Band, but honestly only 1, and like I've said, we're losing it post-rotation, but I think probably going 2-hit KOing with something like Charizard and Braixen is going to be what a lot of the changes turn out being. 1 card we've got here that I love is Dashing Pouch. If the Pokemon this card is attached to discards energy for its retreat cost, put that energy into your hand. So you can retreat your Pokemon, put the fire energy into your hand, and then you can reattach it using Welder. Great card in this particular deck. I absolutely love it. We've got a copy of Adventure Bag, which helps to search out those tools, which is quite nice. It's not the most essential card here, but it works quite nicely. Couple copies of Fire Crystal to get your fire energy out of the discard. 1 copy of Field Blower to get rid of tools and stadiums. It's losing it to the rotation, but so is every deck. 1 copy of Reset Stamp. I'm seeing people start to do their lists of the best cards in Unified Minds, and I'm not usually this bullish when we're doing lists, but if you don't put Reset Stamp as the best card from Unified Minds, I'm going to consider you wrong. I know, harsh words. 1 copy of Great Catcher, discard 2 cards from your hand, and then you can drag an EX or a GX of your opponents from their bench into their active. When Guzma rotates out, you can expect to see more of this in basically every deck. And then in terms of stadiums, we've got 2 Power Plant to turn off abilities of EX and GX Pokemon. 2 copies of Giant Half, it turns out it's called, which discard a card from your hand, search your deck for 2 basic fire energy and put them into your hand. And 1 copy of Heat Factory Prism Star, discard a fire energy from your hand, draw 3 cards. This is a good approximation of what Reshiram and Charizard should look like now that we've got Charizard and Braixen. And I know that we're losing some of this to rotation, but basically you got a couple one-off Pokemon which aren't the biggest losses ever. You've got a couple of Kiawe, which does suck, but we can work around it. And then you've got the basics that everyone's losing. Yeah, Choice Band, Guzma, Professor Kukui, Ultra Ball, etc. But every deck is losing them, and like I've said, we've got alternatives. I think Reshiram and Charizard will survive post-rotation. I think it will be more of a mix of both the Charizard tag teams, and I think it's going to have to accept being a 2-hit KO deck, but then again, so's Pikachu and Zekrom, and everybody thinks that's going to be good. But I'd like to know what you think about Charizard after the rotation hits, so please do let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WasiPlays, where we talk about a whole bunch of games that don't even have any Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.